Hello, Garland Nixon here. We're hanging out with Matt Weinglass. Got a couple of subjects to talk about: AOC, Epstein, Ukraine, and a little bit about the Superman movie. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon, hanging out with Matt Weinglass. You can find him two places. THL Presents, that stands for the Homeless Left. THL Presents right here on YouTube. And of course, he's on Rumble or the Homeless Left. They do great work. Him and lots of people, Steve Poikonen over there, and T-Lab, the Last American Vagabond, all those guys over there. And now, Matt, we're happy to know that you're back on YouTube at THL Presents. All right, let's get rolling. Several things going on. Let's start with the first couple Zionist related. Let's start here. Start with the Superman movie. Apparently, there's been a little bit of pushback, and some of the Zionists are unhappy with the Superman movie. What do we need to know?
Well, look, we've been calling Hollywood woke for a long time, and that there's a lot to that. There's a lot to the idea that we've talked about this, Garland, how the city here, the town here, the industry itself has failed. We have this, like, these check boxes that have to happen on every film, so we've lost stories about humanity. And so you think a character like Superman, who, we all know that this has been a character that represents this integrity and inspiration. And you think about the classic films, particularly the Donner and Christopher Reeve films that everybody knows and loves. But there's always been this discrepancy on can they reach that level again? We go skeptically into these films. I've kind of tuned out of the Marvel ones in the last several years.
Here. Can't stand them.
It's really just the same old over and over. But this one hits the theater. I'm like, I'll check it out. And it turns out, lo and behold, Superman being placed in today's day in 2024, 2025. Guess what? There's a genocide going on. Guess what? America is funding it. Guess what? We're not doing such great things around the world. And the movie is fully aware of that. Now, the reason I think, and it feels like they're able to get away with this, the director was able to get away with this because in the DC universe, you don't have to name countries by their names. They have other, fictitious names to name the country. So you're living in this kind of fictitious world where you can kind of maybe get away with a little bit more. But I think the essence is that if we were to imagine a world where Superman would show up today with all the chaos going on, all of the wars we're funding, the proxy wars, the genocides, the capture of the media, the social media influence, the AI technology, the Palantir, all of that is sprinkled into this film. And
wow.
You imagine what would a being from another planet when he's here, how would he respond? And it seems that Superman, the essence of Superman, the thing that we've always thought of when we thought about inspiration and hope and truth and justice, he would take matters in his own hands. He wouldn't be representing a country and a country's interest. He would go and do what's right for humanity. And that's how the movie starts off. And right away, you're like, there's something going on here. There's something interesting happening here. And lo and behold, the movie makes its rounds, and you have all these Zionists online just slamming it. They're slamming it. They're saying this is not what Superman was supposed to be about. And there's a lot there. There's a lot there. The more they get angry, you say to yourself, well, why are you so angry? Israel's not mentioned in this film. What are you suggesting? That the fictitious country in this film that Superman is trying to stop from killing innocent people? Are you suggesting that feels like it's Israel? Because nobody says it is. So those are the kind of questions that come up. But I'm just so happy to see this thing slip through the cracks because generally you just don't get movies like this in what we call Hollywood.
Wow. So in this movie, there's things that could lead the Zionists to, there's a country called Smizrael. I'm being facetious, but you get my point. And old Smizrael is up to no good. They're killing innocent people, not to give away the plot, but apparently Superman doesn't take kindly to this. And the country Israel, people who are supporters of Zionism say, hey, I think he's talking about us. And that's a
Yes.
bad thing.
Yes. And again, there's no mention. Obviously, you're in a fictitious universe. There's no mention of Palestine. There's no mention of Israel. But Superman comes to the rescue of the people that don't have anything. They're the people they have sticks and dirt, and they don't have the weaponry that the U.S. is supplying to this fictitious country that is trying to invade and start a war with these people. And then, lo and behold, what happens next is Superman gets pushback. They say, how dare you? How dare you interfere with the happenings of these countries? That's not your place. He's like, I'm stopping people from dying. That's what I'm doing. I don't need to check in with world leaders and ask their permission before I stop people from dying. And I just love that concept. And I think more people should, go check this out. And of course, there's flaws in the film throughout, and we don't have to get into all that, but I just to see this getting through the censors here, particularly in Hollywood, because there's definitely a Zionist capture of this town. We know that it's when you speak out for Palestine, when you try and protest Palestine, when you show up to Gal Gadot getting a star on Hollywood Boulevard. That's a signal. That's a signal to shut up. These are the people we honor, and if you have something to say about it, you lose your ability to have a career in this town. You get, if you're Susan Sarandon, you get CAA gets rid of you, says you can't be part of what we're doing because that's interfering with the people that actually, I mean, I hate to say it, Garland, but the people that have the power in this town dictate what happens and what doesn't happen, what gets said and what's not allowed to be said. So it's quite a feat that James Gunn was able to pull this off.
And let's not forget, it's all throughout the U.S. empire, because over in England, the singer, what's his name, that yelled death to the IDF guy, that guy,
Bob Villain. Yes,
Bob Villain. He had like a really major talent agency, and when he did that, the U.S. all of a sudden cancels his tour and says he can't come here. His talent agency drops him. So it's and that just goes to show what Washington is, what the LA power brokers are doing, right, is basically the work of imperialism, the work of the neocons, the work of the warmongers, because you look over there, and if somebody pushes back against war, if they push back against genocide anywhere, there's no place you can hide in the empire that they're not coming for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's, you get punished for saying, let's stop imperialism. Let's stop genocide. You're made an example of, and that's the point. And as far as like the entertainment industry in general, like, yeah, there's a capture here. You don't just because you're an A-lister or just because you have, a following, doesn't mean you just get to do whatever you want. You have to go through censors constantly, record labels. You can't just put out any music you want, right? You have to go through the censors. So when you protest that, there are consequences to that. So we're living in this backwards world, this a bizarre land. You'd think that there would be more championing of voices against, imperialism and occupation and genocide, but it's reversed. It's reversed. So we look these rare moments where we have entertainment kind of get through those cracks and give us these opportunities. We have to celebrate them because there's few and far between.
Yeah, 100% with you. Now, let's speaking of Zionism, AOC. She's dancing around now again, saying people are unfairly attacking her. But my understanding, here's as well as I understand it, Marjorie Taylor Greene put forth a bill that would cut $500 million from the money that goes to Israel. And AOC voted against it. And voted against doing that. And when she was pressed, she said, well, they need defensive money for the Iron Dome, right? I looked into it. Nowhere could I find that the bill specifically said we're taking money from the Iron Dome. It said from the money that goes to Israel. So therefore, if they wanted to use all of the other money that we gave them for the Iron Dome, they could have. That wasn't specifically, you know what I mean? She took something that was general. Let's take $500 million from the money we give them. Okay, in general, you can take it from anywhere. Oh, I couldn't because they needed money for the Iron Dome, but it wasn't designated only the Iron Dome. So what she did was kind of a straw man argument, pretending that it was specifically $500 million from defense for Israel. I got an idea. Stop attacking everybody, and you won't need a defensive Iron Dome. But at any rate, your thoughts on the AOC dance here?
Well, I mean, that's just another level of the duplicity here, that the nefarious actions of AOC on behalf of her handlers. That's what she's doing. She's not doing this on her own. I'm like, and again, and we talk about handlers, we talk about working on behalf of them, and it's like, not to insinuate or imply that we're taking the responsibility off of her, but we know that she's not just waking up in the morning saying, I'm going to just tweet out these lies just because I feel like it. She has to do it. But with or without the association, Garland, of the 500 million, let's assume that it did say very clearly this 500 million goes to the Iron Dome. Even still, what are you saying? You're saying we have to allow protection for a genocidal entity. We have to allow protection for a Nazi type entity. Would you do this? Would you tweet something like this out if there was X Twitter in 1940 Germany? Would you say we have to protect Hitler's right to protect himself as he's committing a Holocaust? That's the right you have to protect yourself. So give him an Iron Dome. So the logic of it doesn't make any sense. And when you point that out, Garland, about that there's not even an allocation of the 500, so you're lying about that, and you think that lie is enough. That's the thing. So the lie isn't even enough to cover yourself, because you're saying the G word. Thank you very much for putting the G word out there. Bernie won't even do that. But it's the contradiction in that excuse, that lie doesn't even check out, because you're saying we have to protect the right of a genocider. That's what you're saying, and you're lying about it.
Well, and here's the thing. I always like to search. I always like to do a Google search, because what that tells me, I do it all the time, and I recommend people do it. Because what that always tells me is what the system wants me to know, right? So I do AOC. I'm going to do this Google search, right? And let's do the news, and let's look at it together so we can see what Google wants us to think about AOC. Here we go. And in the news, AOC's campaign office vandalized in Brooklyn. AOC's office vandalized after recent House vote involving U.S. aid to Israel. AOC office, so that's all we say. AOC slams critics for lying about her Iron Dome stance in defense bill. AOC campaign office vandalized. Vandalism, vandalized. The surprising bill uniting MTG, Nancy Pelosi, Lauren Boebert, and AOC. That's weird. They're united. Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC, they're not united. They're on opposite sides of the bill. So the bottom line is this. All we're seeing is poor little AOC. Her office has been vandalized. We got to feel sorry for her. The far left says AOC didn't go far enough against Israel. That's concerning. Anything else? Anti-Israel vandals deface AOC's office. So I guess they're anti-Israel because they don't like AOC. That makes sense to me. So that's the bottom line. We look at there, and we see now AOC was supposed to be against the system, fighting the system, stopping the system. The system pushed against her. When I go to Google, which is the system, and I see all pro AOC, poor AOC, AOC's doing the right thing, that tells me that she is now the system. One quick thing. I don't know if you saw it. The Gray Zone had some info about AOC.
Yes.
So go ahead.
Yes, I was going to bring that up, because this is exactly right. You go to Google, you see what they're putting out, and then what's more important is what you're not seeing. What Max Blumenthal let us know that you're not going to see is the two Israeli venture capitalists who funded AOC and helped her rise to power. It's very Obama-esque, as Max Blumenthal puts it, but these two venture capitalists are not even mentioned. But the article was put out by the Times of Israel. So this all checks out, and it's interesting that Google, the search engine, would go out of its way to leave that out when you're trying to get a history of AOC. You get that same old bartender to public figure storyline, which is all we know. It's all contrived, but the things that they don't tell you is even the more important one, Garland. And if I could just respond to that vandalism story, which is everywhere, it's insane, because you look at that and they're lying in that story. We looked at that on the homeless left. It's unbelievable that you're talking about red paint that was thrown on the front of her office, and on the red paint it says AOC funds genocide in Gaza. That's the extent of the vandalism. Then they go on to, and I'm not saying these are made up out of nowhere, but there's no paper trail for this. They're just saying, AOC's, her life's in danger. We have threats against her life. So that's why that's all over Google right now, because it's a feeling, Garland. It's always a feeling. It seems that the Zionists can really go off of feelings. They don't have to go off of facts. If you feel like your life is threatened, just say it. My life has been threatened. You have red paint saying that you fund the murder of children and women that we're funding here. If you get called out on that with red paint on the front of your office, which there's a certain bill it's going to cost to clean that paint up, of course. But if you think your life is threatened by that, all you have to do is say it, and that's enough. And that's why that story is all over Google. And like Max Blumenthal told us, that what's not on Google is the things we really do need to know is who are her handlers. Two Israeli venture capitalists. There you go.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the article. Last night, our campaign in the Bronx was vandalized, and we're in the process of cleaning it up. In the past few days, we've also received multiple threats on a congresswoman's life. We're treating them seriously. Look, I've seen this game before where they claim death threats. Are they being investigated? Is somebody going to be arrested? How in this day and age could somebody send a death threat to AOC and NSA wouldn't know where it came from?
Exactly.
How could you possibly do that? How? If you called, they're going to know where the call came from. If you send a text, if you send an email or whatever, they can chase down the computer and they can find out where it came from. So I'm supposed to believe that somebody was so good, they were such a great hacker that they were able to send a death threat in a way that NSA couldn't figure out where it came from. I find that hard to believe. It sounds like bullcrap to me.
Yeah. I think they're leveraging the red paint on the front door as the feeling of the death threat. I mean, that's my best assessment of it, because like you said, Garland, there's no one's going to get arrested from it. It's just these are death threats. Okay. You can interpret that as a death threat. I mean, I guess I would be pretty perplexed if I showed up to work or I saw or even my car or something, there was a message on it. I would be upset about that. I feel like someone's coming after me. So that should be enough. Just put that, just print that. That's enough. So that's my suspicion there. But again, it's the stuff that you're not seeing on Google. So that's something we always need to, I like that tactic, that technique you apply here, Garland, because we always have to say, what are they not sharing with us? And then what's the thing being hyped up, which in this case is this death threat vandalism situation.
It's always this, what kills me. They don't acknowledge the capabilities and the capacity of the NSA and the intel operations. Trump is working for Putin. And I used to say this, well, you got to explain something to me. How is Trump able to contact the Kremlin, Putin, whoever, the Russians, and the NSA can't figure it out? Does he use a phone? Well, I think they can probably figure that out. Does he send him an email? How about Telegram? Maybe Twitter? Is there any way that the president of the United States or a guy who's running for president can somehow have contact and transfer information and data between himself and somebody in Russia, and we're supposed to believe that Trump's such a technological genius that he's figured out how to have discussions with Vladimir Putin, dare I say.
It's pretty
and NSA,
wild.
And he gets around NSA and all the intelligence spy operations. Trump has figured out a way to get by. Every time they say something, I'm like, if you don't arrest somebody and charge them or tell them we know who it is and the guy's been grabbed, we've sent secret. If you don't do that, then you're lying, because every friggin' text I send, everything I send you to, both you're a dissenter, good and damn well that you can't say boo, that they can't track it down.
Well, now we're talking about a bigger idea here that I think this is an opportunity, because we're seeing this so many times, this who's getting arrested. No one's getting arrested. And we're seeing this time and time again, right? We got the Epstein situation, which I know we'll be talking about, but across the board, you never see anybody getting arrested. You see the claims being made. You see this these investigations happening, but nobody getting arrested. And I think that the jig is up. I mean, we understand now that if you don't have an arrest, all of it was for nothing. It was just theater. And I think that, MAGAs are seeing that now. I think that we've learned our lesson. I mean, we learned that lesson back at Obama, coming in saying, this is the way I do my lawyering. I don't look behind, I look ahead. And it's like, what happened to holding people accountable for illegal torture program and an illegal war, killing 1 million Iraqis? Well, we don't do that. Oh, really? Okay. So that's
unless you're a whistleblower. For some reason, under Obama, when it came to whistleblowers, like John Kerry, whoever, he's like, hey, are you going after the people who lied us into a war? We're looking ahead. We're not looking behind. What about this whistleblower? We're going to look behind with the whistleblower. Even if they didn't do anything wrong, the only thing they did was we're going to come up with something else to charge them with. So if you dissent against the machine, they're looking way back. If you're actually part of the criminal machine, for some reason, they're blind. No, we don't even know what happened today, yesterday, tomorrow. We know nothing.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And so the people getting arrested are not the people in power. That's the key. So if you don't see people in power, well, every once in a while you get a fall guy, right? You get your Jeffrey Epstein committing suicide for who knows why. He didn't do any crime, right? I guess there's no list, but he killed himself. And then you just every once in a while you get a little fall guy, like here in Hollywood, you get your Harvey Weinstein, right? Lock him up and everything goes back to normal. That was the one bad apple. Or you got your Bernie Madoff, right? You just you put the one guy, you make an example, and then you move on and you convince the public everything is great. We're right back to normal, business as usual. But those are very few exceptions. Other than that, nobody in power ever gets arrested or goes to jail.
Well, here's what I love. I look up Epstein, right? Again, a Google search. Here's the articles that pop up. Newly discovered photos and videos shed fresh light on Trump's ties to Epstein. POTUS is clearly furious. White House is frustrated by all-consuming Epstein coverage. Trump's Epstein denials are videos show ties between Epstein and Trump. So now, for some reason, the last time I checked, the whole Epstein episode happened in 2019. The Democrats were in office for 4 freaking years, and they never came up with any plan, never crossed their mind to get rid of it, to let the Epstein stuff out. Now, all of a sudden, can you believe Trump with his Epstein stuff? But they're not saying release the document, the list. What they're saying is Trump won't release the list because he did some evil deeds with Epstein. They're not saying they want to release the list. They're not saying we should release the list. It's Trump is bad. Trump, all this is just another angle to it. Of course, Trump was with Epstein. They were all with Epstein. But now it's Trump was with Epstein. That's why he won't release the list. And if you were to say to them, oh, well, in that case, you know what? Here's what Trump should say. I've decided to do this. I haven't thought about this list and haven't made a decision. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm letting the Republicans all out of it. Democrats, you guys are going to vote whether or not to receive the list. I'm going to let the Democrats in the House and the Senate all come together in one room. We'll put a camera on it and they'll all vote. And if they all vote in favor of letting the list out, we'll let the list out. If they say no, then we won't. It's up to the Democrats. They're right. I've been wrong here. I've screwed up. Let's let them make the decision. I'm not even making decisions. I'm going to leave the room and I'm going to tell my people whatever the Democrats tell you to do. I'm walking away. It's up to them. Because you know what I mean? The whole thing's a fraud.
That would have been a good tactic, but unfortunately he ruined that. He kind of lost that option, Garland, when he came out and said that the Epstein files, the Epstein list was a hoax by the Democrats the whole time. So knowing that, like, he went so far on that direction that his own base is like, that doesn't make any sense. Because like you said earlier, you had 4 years to do this thing. If you thought that the Democrats were pushing this the whole time, that's not how history went. You're rewriting history. We know very well. MAGAs know very well. And I hope the Democrats don't have a short-term memory here, but they have to understand that this was not a priority. Not only was it not a priority, it was something they said was a MAGA conspiracy. So both sides are saying it's the other side's conspiracy. So you're never going to have any honest discussion. The only thing that can happen now, it's not going to be up to Trump. The only thing that can happen now is you got to figure out how you could use this moment for populists on the right and populists on the left to have a joint aha moment, Neither side wants to release this. You can hate Trump all you want if you're a lefty. That's fine. But understand this is bigger than Trump. It has to be bigger than Trump. And you think he's a king, right? The whole no king. Well, come on, do some math here. If it was really Emperor Trump, who had all the power in the world to do whatever he wanted, which I guess a lot of them think, if he has all the power in the world, do whatever he wanted, he could have taken himself out, done the redacted thing, right? We've seen that with the JFK, with the MLK. You can do redacted, and you can get everybody else. So don't pretend that this is a unique Trump thing if you're on the left. And the right needs to understand that this is a moment where Trump is lying to you, telling you that this was a Democrat hoax when you know the Democrats did not want this out. So the right and left populists have to come together and say, this is the moment where we pull the curtain back and realize all of you are in on it. You all suck, and you're all against both of our sides, and you've been playing us against each other this whole time. And we demand answers. We demand not just this list. We demand the files. It's about the files. Those files incriminate everybody, and that's the real story here.
Absolutely. And people would say, so a couple people want to say in the chat, you said it was bipartisan. In a way, you could use that, you could say that, but in a way, even the word bipartisan doesn't cover it, because it kind of implies that there's two sides that come together on some things, but when really there's only one side. You know what I mean? There's not a bi there. It's mono, realistically, when it comes to these kind of things. It's not bipartisan when it comes to Israel. It's not bipartisan when it comes to war. It's not bipartisan when it comes to Zionism or genocide or any of that. It's monopartisan. It is one friggin' group. So
we call it how about apartisan? Right?
That's it. It is nonpartisan. It's what they all go for, right? No flags, no labels, nonpartisan. Genocide, Zionism, Epstein. But the truth about the Epstein, and that is this. When you come down to it, our so-called ally, our so-called special relationship with Israel, they're murdering children now. They were raping and sexually trafficking children. Our ally. Sexually trafficking children and murdering, 17,000, which there's plenty more. They're saying 17,000 is probably more like 80,000. It's 500,000 people they've killed. So you're like, yes, those are our friends. They're the good guys. They're the chosen people. They're whatever you want to say to the Zionists. And I argue that Zionism, they took certain things from Judaism and stuck it into this political entity and pretended that this is Judaism. You know what I mean? This is Zionism. This is a political entity. First and foremost, it is a political entity. But the bottom line is this political entity of Zionism is about raping, trafficking, and now openly murdering children.
It's disgusting that it's come to this, that we're seeing that atrocity after atrocity, just these crimes against humanity, this disgusting behavior, and we still haven't had enough. Like how much more can we handle? And the numbers you're talking about, Garland, I mean, I've heard, when we look at because we know that the population of the Gaza Strip, the 2.2 million, it seems that it's been reduced already by 500,000. We're talking about 1.7 million that are left starving to death. So it's like the accuracy of these, as far as like how many children have been murdered versus how many are still alive, they're starving to death. There's that too, and that's the part where it's so disgusting, because you got Netanyahu still gets these standing ovations and this like red carpet treatment wherever he goes. And I don't know if you saw this, but he sat down and did a podcast a couple days ago. This is interesting. I got to get these guys. I never heard of these dudes. We saw this yesterday. Unbelievable. These like frat boy podcast dudes.
Were they like the two young Jews or something like that? That group?
So no. So this is what. One of them is a Jew. I don't know if the other one is.
Because there was a group.
Okay, they're called the Nelk Boys.
Okay, no, that was a different one.
So I'd never heard of them. These guys come out of nowhere. Well, they have a pretty big following, but they don't do politics. They don't do journalism. They don't do they just talk college frat boy stuff. And that's it. And all of a sudden, and we saw the link to these guys, the Nelk boys. So Netanyahu is like, oh, I'm going to do a podcast. Well, who does he select? Somebody who knows how to do journalism and wants to have an honest discussion? No, he selects these two dudes who he knows he can come in and just trample over them. And it's what he did. And these guys were so excited to have this opportunity. They talked to their audience. We saw them getting all like ready, like, ooh, we're going to learn, guys. We don't really know about the Middle East. We don't have any idea what's actually happening. Why don't we take this opportunity? And you guys know we're not going to say no to this. So we're so excited. Netanyahu is going to come in here, sit down with us, and he's going to educate us on what's going on in the Middle East. And that's what we call doing journalism. And after we do that, we might nail an interview with Putin next, and we might get one with anyone. Like, so they start hyping themselves up as if they were invited into a ring to fight Mike Tyson in his prime when they'd never been in a ring in their life, saying, "Come on, guys, we can't turn this down." And what happened? The thing was a complete disaster for them. It was great for Netanyahu. He got to educate them the whole way, telling them about Palestinians want to kill every Israeli that's alive, which will be more deaths than the Holocaust. And they're sitting going, "Oh, that sounds horrible. That sounds horrible." And the questions they had for him was just insane. And like, we know that they were fed questions. They got to ask a couple of their own. But these guys thought it would be a good idea to ask him, "Hey, Netanyahu, what's your favorite fast food? Is it Burger King or McDonald's?" That literally was what they were talking about. Fast food.
As he's starving people. People are starving to death, and they're asking him. Well, here's the key. I look at it, right? The Nelk boys, right? When I look at it, here's what I see. Popular videos. Coke prank on cops, 50 million views.
Oh my God.
The most savage pranks of 2017 million views. Next one, 16 million, 15 million, 14 million, 14 million views. You and I know you don't get those kind of views. I mean, like Jimmy Dore, I can name any number of people, Galloway, these people that like have worldwide followings. And you look and you're like, well, how does these guys' video only get 20,000 views or 40,000 views, maybe 100,000 views for their video? And these clowns are getting 17. One of them has 50 million views.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, to be, honest, let's see. 1 month ago, they go 3.8 million, 5 million, 4.8 million, 6 million, 7 million, 8 million, 5 million, 6 million. This is their stuff.
Yeah.
Views.
So you have to ask yourself, if you're one of these dudes who getting 50, for whatever reason, you're getting these 50 million views, and Netanyahu has agreed to come sit down with you and do a podcast. And it didn't look like Netanyahu had done a podcast before. I can't say for sure, but he came in there and he made like some snide comment about, "Oh, you're not going to clip a mic on me. Oh, you guys use these microphones. Oh, I get it. It's like a podcast." So I don't think he's done it before. But here's the point. These guys have no clue. They had no clue. I hope somebody's told them by now, but they had no clue that there's a reason they were selected to have this opportunity to pretend to be journalists. It's like this. It's such a slap in the face to independent media, the things we do, Garland. It's to say that, oh, I'm going to play dress up for the day and get educated by a genocidal maniac. He's going to explain to us what's going on in the Middle East. I mean, it's so juvenile and it's so idiotic that these guys thought that this is what it's about, is you learn as you go. That's not how it works. And you don't get to go into a ring if you haven't spent years preparing for a big fight. It doesn't work that way. But you should be asking your question, why would he sit down with us? Do you think that our resume checked out, or do you think that we were the exact vulnerable targets for him to do whatever he wanted for 50 million people watching? Maybe that's why. Also, looked behind the scenes and saw that one of these guys, I guess his name is Aaron Steinberg. His father is Harvey Steinberg, a lawyer who defended a guy named Asher Kami, who is a convicted nuclear weapon smuggler back in 2004. There's your connection. And that's why you got this, what you said, that this is why you get this elevation. And this is why these guys are the perfect targets for Netanyahu to come in and do whatever he wanted, and leaving these guys like kind of, oh, I'm glad I'm glad we found out that Netanyahu likes a Whopper, prefers it over a Big Mac.
Well, here's my thoughts. They're Intel operatives. My thought immediately is Intel operatives. Yeah, come on. When you look and you're like, okay, let's look at their videos. 15 million, 5 million, 8 million, 10 million. That means that YouTube is putting them at the very, very top of everything. You know what I mean? They're Intel operatives at the highest order. And then as soon as you're like, one of these guys was involved in smuggling nuclear weapons, well, that guy was an Intel operative. In the same way that Bill Barr's father was CIA and intelligence. And Bill Barr, the Apple don't fall. Ghislaine Maxwell's father was intelligence. She's intelligence. This guy's father was surely intelligence. And if you want to find a spook, go to Wikipedia. If you ever see something in Wikipedia, Garland Nixon, Garland's a great guy, a wonderful person. He does nothing but good and joyous things for humanity. Never talk to me again. Because you can be sure one thing. If Wikipedia says Garland's a great guy, Garland's a damn CIA Mossad operative. If I ever look on there and I'm like, oh, let me read my Wikipedia page. Oh my God, it says I'm great. I might as well jump off a cliff and kill myself. Jeez, I must have got brainwashed by the CIA. They must have gave me one of these drinks with the MK Ultra in it, and I don't know that I'm a walking CIA zombie. That's the only way I could find something good written for myself. And when I go to Wikipedia, a Canadian outlet has referred to the group's founders, Kyle Forgard and Jesse Sebastiani, as two of the most recognizable personalities for young people in North America. I've never heard of these bastards. Have you ever heard of them before?
No.
I don't know anyone who's ever heard of the two most recognizable personalities for young people in North America. Right? And they go on and say good things about them. In October 20, listen to this. In October 2020, members of the group met with President Donald Trump on Air Force One. Isn't that interesting? Just a YouTube page, just some young guys that are twitting around having fun. And one day they were on Air Force One, and the next day they're meeting with Netanyahu. Nelk supported Trump's campaign in the 2024 U.S. presidential election, during which Forgard spoke at a number of the campaign rallies. So one of the guys spoke at Trump campaign rallies. Oh, listen to this. On July 8th, Forgard and Steinberg of Nelk interviewed Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, which was then released. They discussed it. Afterwards, they discussed it. They discussed the interview with several influencers, including Sneeko, Myron Gaines, Hassan Piker, and Nick Fuentes. The Times of Israel categorized the commonality between all those influencers holding anti-Semitic views. So the bottom line is this. How do you... I'm on YouTube. You are. What do you think they're ever going to call you to Air Force One or me or to meet with Netanyahu? I'd love to interview him. Both and Trump. Ain't happening.
Well, that's the part that I think and look, I'm not trying to, again, give them any extra credit for, the fact that they are, they are being used. I think they're being used. I think they're not that bright. And I think that maybe the father is using them as these, unknowingly. But they think, oh, we're getting into journalism. We're doing this. They had no idea what was happening there. Like you just said, do they think that we're turning down these interviews and they're going to say, no, we're going to take it because we have more courage than other independent media folks? Do you think Max Blumenthal said no to the interview with Netanyahu? It's like that. He's only going to sit down with somebody that fits the bill where he can walk all over you. That's it. So outside of ABC and CNN and Fox, that's it. So that's what you guys ended up being. And the fact that they're willing to talk after the fact and figure out what people thought, it's a sign to me that they're unknowing tools. That's what it seems to me. And their family certainly knows what they're up to. Their father, the one father, Steinberg, knows what they're up to. But I don't know if they do, because I saw one comment. One of their viewers wrote a comment to them after the interview and said, you know that Netanyahu is the modern day Hitler, right? And they read the comment on their show and they go, yeah, that's a pretty fair assessment. We could see that. And I'm like, really? I don't know. Maybe that's a a fake response, but to me, I feel like they're in over their head. And it's like, if you think that's a fair response, and yet you're still asking this guy what his favorite fast food is, it's pretty remarkable. Pretty remarkable.
And it's hard for me to believe that your people that get on Air Force One, I just looked, they've interviewed Elon Musk. They've interviewed Andrew Tate. They've interviewed Mike Tyson, and I look in and they've interviewed Tucker Carlson, all these people on their podcast. Boy, they sure have access. All of that. But yet you bring Netanyahu on in this day and age, and you're a young person and you don't know that he's starving people to death and doing terrible things. Maybe it's true. Maybe they're ignorant guys, and maybe they're intel operatives. Inquiring minds would like to know, but who knows?
Yeah. They did ask. They asked the question. The one I saw them ask: what do you say about the fact that it looks like Israel's starving Palestinians to death? What do you say to that? And then, of course, Netanyahu was ready to come back and tell them, we're trying to get them aid. It's Hamas. He sounded like Bernie Sanders there for a second. He goes, it's Hamas. He's like, I was like, oh, that's the Bernie answer. But he said, no, Hamas is taking the aid and keeping it for themselves. And we can't do anything about that, but we really want to give them aid. So
we bomb them instead.
Yeah.
We can't give them aid, so we just drop bombs on them. That's the best way. That's all we got for them is high explosives. It's the best we could do.
But like a real journalist would do a follow-up to that and say, well, that's interesting, Netanyahu, because you just told us that every one of them are trying to kill every single Israeli. So why would you want to nurse them back to health and give them the nourishment to commit atrocities like worse than the Holocaust? As you indicated earlier in the interview, you just told us that the Palestinians want to kill 7 to 8 million Jews this time. Why would you give them the nourishment to be able to do that? That would be my follow-up. So they don't know how to connect the dots just in that interview, even without knowing anything, as they claim. We don't know anything. Well, he just told you the thing about they're trying to kill us, and then he told you we're trying to get them aid, and Hamas isn't letting us. So ask a follow-up. What do you just contradicted yourself.
So if I can understand this, it's the Palestinians that are trying to kill them.
Yes.
And they're struggling to get aid to the Palestinians.
Yes, that's exactly what he's saying.
They're not trying to kill Palestinians. The Palestinians are trying to get them. Yes. And they're fighting the Palestinians who are just, they're struggling and fighting to get aid to the Palestinians, but they can't get it in because the Palestinians are stopping them and stealing the aid.
That's literally what he told 50 million of their audience. Yes. And there's no pushback. They just say, oh, do you want fries with that?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, that's good to know. So tell me, what's your favorite bird? Yeah, that's just one. And that's where we are now. That's where we are. And to me, you have to, let's get back to Epstein a little bit.
Yes.
Just a little bit. When you really come down to it, I don't see how people can have the discussion anymore about the Democrats and the Republicans, about who you should vote for. One's better than the other, whatever, right? If I look at someone and they're like committing genocide and like sex trafficking kids, at that point, it's like I've talked to Black people that are like, yes, we're working on reparations. And I'm like, notwithstanding the fact that I think there is a strong legal case for reparations, there is definitely a legal case for that should be pursued. Fair enough. They're committing a genocide. And they're like raping and murdering children and trafficking them for sex. Do you really think you got a chance of getting any kind of justice from these people? What are you even talking about that for? You know what I mean? I'm just saying, I'm telling you, I think that in a actual court of law, if the people could lay out the evidence for reparations and say, you know what, Japanese people that were interned in camps got reparations. Jews from the Holocaust got reparations. Yep. There is a legal argument here for reparations. I agree. But looking at these, what they are, these are the worst monsters on earth. I just think you're wasting your time to ask people who are raping and murdering children. we could get a little justice from you guys. Perhaps you would hear our case for a just resolution to this unfortunate problem. No. At this point, you're just like, to me, deal with the reality that you're dealing with murderers and child rapists. I don't know. Maybe some people get mad at me for saying that, but I think you see where I'm coming from.
Well, it's a matter of priority. So you're being very clear about this. It's not that's not an important thing that needs to be looked at and talked about, but we have to start understanding priorities when it comes to humanity and the things that we should be championing, and what does justice look like? What does it mean when you're saying the contradiction and the hypocrisy here of the acts of horrible of violence and murder and death and not to mention torture and all of this stuff what we're doing right now? That needs to be the priority. If we can solve that, if we can say no more of that, and then we can maybe step back and go, okay, what other things can we make up for or acknowledge or have justice to? What other reparations? And like you said, you've mentioned other ones that are totally justified. So we should prioritize those in the order that is most important. And right now, the most important thing is stopping this genocide that we're funding. Period. That's it. That's it. And the child sex trafficking, I think that is the biggest connector of all, because that takes out the argument of, well, it's happening over there. And we get a lot of that, right? We get a lot of, oh, why don't we care about, and we get this from the Democrats a lot, right? We get this, like, we care about brown people. We care about brown people in cages right here. When it's Trump doing it, we care about brown kids, right? But not the ones over, that's too far away. It's too far away. Okay. Let's step back and forget the border situation and look at children being tortured, children being bombed, murdered, children being sex trafficked. If we can connect the dots on that, let's just start with that. Let's start with children in general. I don't care what color their skin is. Children should not be tortured, raped, murdered, bombed, starved to death, trafficked, or put in a cage. None of those things should happen, and we should be against it. Unite together against that, as humanity should be against that. Period. That should be it. And maybe the Epstein case, the files disappearing, he just killed himself for no reason. This moment could be the moment. Could be. And I don't want to sound over optimistic here, but I do think there's something about that says, wake up, everyone. Yeah. This is the thing that they're all protecting. This is the thing. And we're not going to let this go. So let's do that. Let's start with the children and just put our foot down and say, enough protecting this. We want justice. We want answers. We want justice. We want humanity to prevail. That's what I think that would be the moment now.
I'm going to connect this to COVID. During COVID, when we had people telling us, you should do what you're told, you should comply. When they tell you to do this, stop questioning things. Stop asking, why is it 6 feet or why is it this? Everything they tell you, you guys got to question it. And we were like, yeah, we question everything they tell us, right? They were like, and we were like this. Our position was this. We don't trust the government. They've lied to us about everything. They've done us dirty. We understand MK Ultra lied us into every war. We don't trust these bastards. They're up to no good. They're always up to no good. So when they tell us that they're looking out for our health benefits, oh yes, you comply with everything they tell you because they're looking out for your health, we don't believe them. And what we were told by all the liberal types is, oh, you guys have to trust them. They're looking out for you. When they tell you to do these things, stop questioning them doing them, right? So now the Epstein stuff comes out and the genocide comes out. And I'm like, during COVID, these are the people you told us we should trust and believe. During COVID, you got mad at us because we said we don't trust them. They're rotten, low-life bastards, and they're up to no good, and they'll kill us all if we give them the opportunity. And you told me, no, you've got to listen to the government because they're looking out for your best interest. And I think, as an example, the Epstein thing is, so now they did this Epstein intelligence operation of sex trafficking and blackmail. And now they just wake up one day and say, didn't happen. Oh, we'll give you a video. When we look at the video, we're like, well, no, that's not a video of a cell. That's a video like of a hallway. It's been doctored. There's missing footage and it shows us nothing anyway. And what the hell are you talking about? They showed us a video that's a complete fraud. Besides, they told us nothing happened. There is no list. And these are the people that you told us during COVID that we should trust. Now do you get it? That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, they're not going to go back in time and reevaluate COVID. That part where I think we're a little over optimistic on that. We can step back and go, oh, look at this, look at the historical context, look at the patterns. They don't want to look at patterns. I'm not going to give them that much credit. They're going to relate it to, oh, we got COVID wrong. No, let's just start from right now. What they're lying to you right now. Can we just start with that? Maybe later, once you see, I feel, Garland, you have to first remove yourself from the tribe that you're stuck in, right? How do you do that? You have to figure out a way to do that. I do think, and we think we agree on this, that the Epstein situation, the case here, this is an opportunity to remove yourself from your tribe. This is that. Are you going to be able to then have hindsight and look back 5 years ago and say, oh my God, what the hell was I thinking? Are you able to do that? Maybe down the line, maybe, not maybe in the near future, but I think if we start the conversation with, hey guys, you see how you got COVID wrong, they're not going to want to have. You got to get them out of the tribal think first, and maybe Epstein is the way to do that, because it's right now, it's right in your face. You got one side saying it's a con by the other side. You got the other guy saying that it's this guy trying to protect himself, evil dictator Trump. So you see both of them doing that. Connect the dots right now in this moment and say they're all against us. They're all in on it. We have to do something for the children. Just do that. And then we can start educating them, or just get training them. I think you have to condition yourself to use your critical thinking skills. You can't do that if you're stuck in your tribal mindset.
Here's a guy with a super chat. Thanks a lot. Good old John says, Ukraine will prevail. F Putin and supporters. Thanks a lot for the super chat. Appreciate it, John. All right. Let's go there.
That's
in recent
good transition.
Days, yeah, perfect. Oh, thanks a lot, John, for that segue. In recent days, I did a video where I covered a Seymour Hersh article where he claims that he has leaks that Zelensky's done, and the only question is, does he come out dead or alive, right? That's what he said. Does he come out for feet first? Now we have, shockingly, protests. I wonder if there's pallets of bricks being spread around Kiev. We got protests around Kiev, and when I search on here's what's funny. When I search on Google for the word Zelensky, you know what comes up?
What?
Protests in Kiev, protests in Kiev, protests in Kiev. Zelensky's shutting down the anti-corruption. Protests about Zelensky being involved in corruption. Let's see. There's an article from Seymour Hersh that says it's been leaked to me from intelligence that he's out of here. And then the protests start. In fact, that's how this whole thing started. Maidan protests, people got killed, government's overthrown. It seems to me that Zelensky's done. Come on, the protest. We know what happens when they start the protest saying that the leader of a country is involved in graft and corruption. Oh, gee, they finally found graft and corruption in Ukraine. I think Zelensky's toast. I think poor John Scott, who thinks that Ukraine will prevail, well, good luck with that, pal. But I don't think Zelensky's going to be around to see anybody prevail.
Well, look, we've been looking at how the timeline. There's a ticking time bomb on Zelensky. It's been for a while. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When is he out? When are they going to switch him out again? I don't think that's going to be the indicator that that people have moved on, because they can switch him out and they can continue it for just a little longer. I mean, there's a ticking time bomb on this whole thing in general. This is not sustainable. This is not a sustainable situation. So. Right. If it's time, and like I want to check out that Seymour Hersh article, because he's been right on everything. So I guess this might be the time that happens. It doesn't mean you can still manufacture a little more consent, right? You can still do it beyond Zelensky. You can say he's independently corrupt, he's independently shady, he's not doing things right. So you can do a little switch out. But overall, the objective is going to be, how do you get the consent, this manufactured consent? How do you get that back to people seeing what's actually happening? And that's a proxy war that's been initiated by NATO, that's been in the works since 2014. and understand the entire operation was a money laundering scheme, and we're using Ukrainians as cannon fodder as we go through them, all of them being killed one after the next for no reason other than the fact that you get to launder money and launder weapons throughout this entire process. The same conclusion is going to happen, and that's this thing that they're going to lose. That's going to be the thing. So I think that's the question we have to ask: is how do we get the public to see that, not just here, but in other NATO countries as well? And I think that's really the question, regardless of when they remove Zelensky. We still have to answer that question. How do we get people to see that? And Garland, we had Don DeBar on homeless stuff yesterday, and we talked about these three approaches of how do you get to that level of either convincing Trump that he's doing the completely backwards thing that he campaigned on, or if that's even the approach to even go to Trump. But if there's a conversation that could be happening with our neighbors, with our the other people in Europe that have been tricked into this and they're feeling frustrated, how do we start the conversation? So the three things we came up with was the macro approach, which is how do we redefine America should be for peace, and we should stop pushing NATO, pushing these wars on multiple fronts, and just stop it. Just stop it. How do we do that? Change the mindset of what it means, what America is supposed to be. That's a big undertaking. I think that's going to be the hardest. The second one is, and this is kind of what we saw Tucker's approach. He's saying, let's just start the conversation. Tucker Carlson's having this discussions with he had one with a German journalist recently.
No, the guy from Bild. Yeah, that was pretty pathetic, wasn't it?
It was pathetic, but he did something important. He started from a very small place and said, can we just understand the game board when the game is over, when you're done, when you've lost, just admit defeat. That's a good point. So you don't have to be accused of being a Russian agent, a Putinist, all these accusations. Just say, what does it look like when your battleship has been sunk? The game's over. You lost Monopoly, whatever the game is. Just start with that and say, how do we move on from that and just accept that defeat? That's like basically the opposite approach of changing the foreign policy in general. But it might be a good place to start. I'm not going to rule it out. I don't think it was totally, because you have to get people's attention, and that alone just says, hey, look at the chessboard. It's over for Ukraine. They lost.
Well, you know what? Let me say this. I'm of course, it's pretty sickening. The Bild guy is just so brainwashed. It tells you what's happening. But here's the thing about it. I do think that was a very important, interview, a meeting for this reason, because, and I've been around people like this, and I debated a guy one time over Russiagate who came from a Congress member's office. And that is that it is important when people are watching, because you got all these brainwashed people that believe that they hear somebody say something different, that they're yes, Putin did everything, and there's no Nazis in Ukraine, they're all a bunch of good guys, blah, 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 blah. It's important that they hear somebody who is credible, like Tucker Carlson, say, well, there's an alternative line of thinking, there are alternative beliefs, there's other things that have been said, there's another way of looking at that. Fair enough. That's what you believe. But let me throw something different at you from people who believe something different. I'm a big believer in that. Look, I could care less if Rachel Maddow was on every week saying something about Putin, Trump being a Russian bot. I don't care. If she had somebody like me or you or whoever coming on saying, okay, I know you believe that, but let me make a counter argument. That's fine. It's the fact that they never have a counter argument on mainstream media. So in a way, you're right. It's good for this guy who just makes the pro-NATO argument to bring in Tucker Carlson and say, look, let me give you a counter argument here. And for people to hear, those who are brainwashed, to have to deal with that cognitive dissonance where they hear something. Force them into cognitive dissonance. When a person hears something that is not aligned with what they believe, it freaks them out. But we need to create that with people who are like, yes, like our dear friend John, who said, Ukraine will prevail. I bet you the Ukrainians on the battlefield who are running from drones, they're probably like not feeling like they're prevailing. They're getting their asses kicked. And it's okay. It's great. You're sitting behind the keyboard. You ain't got artillery falling around you. You know what I mean? People like me look at it and say, look, in the war, I'm opposed to war. In the war, let's not talk about who will prevail. It's pretty obvious to me that Russia's going to win. But let's stop the war and let's stop Ukrainian people and Russians from dying. And let's go to peace before we all get nuked.
Yeah.
How about that, John? Isn't that a good idea?
Yeah. And then just going to the human side of it, which Tucker did a great job with, just talking about the Ukrainian men that are being pulled, yanked from their houses. We've seen just tons and tons of footage of this. I mean, can you imagine the footage that doesn't exist because the camera phone wasn't on at the time, but we've seen so many of them being ripped out of their homes, and they're holding on to their front porches as they're getting put into a van. And every time we see this footage, they're older and older and older. You say, what happened to the 20-year-olds? Where are they? Oh, they're dead. Where are the 30-year-olds? They're also dead. So this is the 40-year-olds now. The 50-year-olds are being ripped from their front porches. And and Tucker put this out there very nicely. He said, listen, what does it mean to be representing democracy? And what does that mean when the country is telling you, we're forcing you to die for something? We're literally pulling you from your house and we're forcing you to die for the state. Does that what democracy looks like? Can we say that's wrong? That's not okay. And I think that journalist was definitely perplexed by it because he hadn't heard that conversation hadn't happened, and it needs to happen. So that I do appreciate that. Can we just start with this? Can we just start with this? We don't have to change America's foreign policy all at once, but just start with this, accept this loss, and do the right thing, and understand what the world's going to look like when Russia's not taking over the world. We're just protecting the border. Let it go. You're not getting that land back, and move on. That's it. Done. Garland, there's a third approach. Can I tell you about the third approach we came up with?
Go for it.
This approach is very interesting timing because we saw Trump's new distraction, right? What's the distraction? Get Tulsi Gabbard to push the Obama committed a massive crime with Russiagate. Let's go after Obama. So what was the crime there? Well, we know the crime. We know the Russiagate hoax, the entire thing. Everybody was in on it. There's no new information there. We know all of that already. Okay, great. Good timing on that. Distract your base. But what happened after Trump got into office? Because that, I guess, apparently wasn't supposed to happen. Hillary was supposed to be the person. We can debate that one. But what's very key about Ukraine is that's the moment where, and we know this started in 2014, but November 2016, there's a very clear moment where Lindsey Graham, John McCain, Klobuchar go to Ukraine and tell us 2017, this is right after Trump won, 2017 is going to be the year of offense. We are going to aggressively go after Russia. Why are they able to do that in November of 2016? Because they convinced the American people that Russia hacked our election. That's the connector. So if you can go back to that and say, Trump, as you're trying to get Obama arrested, whether he's going away in cuffs or not, we can talk about that, whether that's theater or not. But you're getting everybody pissed off, and rightfully so, that they made up Russiagate. Why? So they can push this fake proxy war immediately after that, which then took a few more years to get actually going. But that's the key. If you can connect that moment, you can tell Trump, you have to stop giving weapons to Ukraine. This is the exact thing that Russiagate led to. It's right on record. There's your timeline right there. That would be a way to say, Trump, you campaigned on this. You said ending it in 24 hours. You want Obama to go away in handcuffs. Stop giving Ukraine weapons. Just stop it.
Yep, I'm with you. Matt, but that's our hour. Had a great time. Look forward to seeing you again next week. As you know, I was in the bunker last week, and 800 feet below the surface in a foreign land. I was in the bunker. I saw Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell in the lunchroom. In fact, in the old bunker. But at any rate, everybody can find Matt at THL Presents on YouTube. You can find him at The Homeless Left. That is on Rumble. So he does a lot of good work, works with a lot of great guys that I really think the world of. Old T-Lab, he's a great guy, man. I love Ryan and Steve and those guys. So everybody, also The Last American Vagabond, and what's Steve's again?
AM Wake Up.
AM Wake Up with Steve
Yep.
Poikin, all that's good stuff. So
Yep.
check those guys out over on Rumble. Thanks a lot. Oh yeah, somebody said I was at an undisclosed location. At any rate, thanks a lot. And everybody, if you can, Patreon or buy me a coffee or PayPal or something, that's great. Even if you can't, the most important thing you can do is share this on all your social media platforms. We're out.